Because next Wednesday is 500 naira.
Studio. Smooth 90.1. Welcome back, Lagos. It's time for You're welcome to be a part of this conversation as the show progresses. We've got three panelists in the studio today. We've got Mr. Big Cups, and of course, we've got, morning, Big Cups.
Morning, Kayode.
That's Tunde Okufi. Good to hear from you this morning. Looking nice and brown. You like it?
Thank you.
It's good.
Thank you.
It's good.
Also, we've got Nwaji in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning, Lagos. Hi, Kayode, and hi, Folu.
Hey.
And we've got Miss Ireti in the studio as well. Good morning. Miss
Morning, Kayode. Kayode Baker, who is actually a Bakari that calls himself a baker.
Kayode.
Ask him for scones and cakes on Baker
yes,
Street.
yes.
You guys
Baker
do
Street.
know that as we jump into our conversation, of course, taking your comments and your thoughts, and we're sure you'll have quite a few on the different stories for today. Go over to our
By the government. To block the National Assembly because, there's a vote for spending that needs to happen on recess. So the federal government had been putting the NAS under pressure to call short their recess, reconvene, so they can vote the money. Saraki allegedly finally agrees, but then colludes with Dara to the National Assembly so that they still can't convene the required money. But who knows? The story says that Dara tries him in that he a security report is the data.
Week's possible reconvening of the Senate to consider request by the presidency for ratification in the proper form.
Yes, it's interesting. I happened to be watching one of the political shows on TV the other day, just earlier this week, I think, and it's actually quite alarming how underprepared INEC appears to be for the 2019 elections, which is quite different from how INEC was prepared last year. For the previous election. Yes, for the previous election. One, who can tell me the name of the head of INEC right now? I don't know whether she's still there. No. And she's not there. No, right, there you go. Apparently she's gone. So this is part of the problem. So who do we turn to? Now, what's interesting is you have, so there's a group called the National Chairman and Leaders of Political Parties. Chief Perry Okpara, National Chairman of NUP. So, now, we just got to do with INEC. And surely at some point, INEC would say, okay, they'll do a count and say, these are all the political parties we have, and we expect there will be this many. And then you have to include them. You can't just ignore them. But this is often what happens. The giants and the bullies are taking over. No, literally, this is the truth. The giants and the bullies are taking over. And then they just like us ordinary people. We minions are turned into beggars. Okay? Whilst those who rape this country are turned into chairmen. Okay, that's what happens.
Mr. Ireti, let's go back and have a look at sort of the history of what's been going on since 2015 elections with INEC. So Mahmood Yakubu is the current chairman, and he hasn't shown.
There you go, Lagos.
Well,
Mahmood Yakubu.
Because we've been talking about him all through this week. I just had a bit of a brain fart there. But have been asking for past budgets that we've had. There have been issues with signing and passing our budgets into law, if you remember. Yep. So we have had issues with dispensing funds appropriately as it should have been done, and that's been because of this long-running disagreement between the legislature and the executive. And I just want to sort of take your comments on that, because the legislature really are responsible for making sure that some of these things, that citizens are not disenfranchised, but yet now we've come into the election and essentially throwing INEC, honestly go through the stories that are coming out, because they have been asking for funds. They have been saying, yes, it's a huge budget, but we need it. And now, in crunch time, they're being quite heavily criticized.
So before you answer, why are political parties looking for money from government?
So this is it. It is provided for. No, not necessarily. So if you go to, and I read this actually back in 2015, but I'm trying to remember now. It's actually in our constitution. I think you have, pardon?
They
get money from.
They
from
get money. Yeah,
okay.
once you declare, once you form a, can't remember the exact amount. So that's why you have so many political parties that come up. Is also the, sorry, I haven't answered your question, but I'll be very quick.
Okay.
The bane of the issues we have leading up to the election, right? But the minute the election is complete, because they all collect the money, the minute the election is completed, they all recede back into their caves, and they're no longer in a position, said they're no longer active because they've collected the money. End of. So your driver can have learnt their lesson in the last few days to listen to the voices of Nigerians, men, women, boys, and girls all across the country, who stood firmly to reject their unconstitutional and anti-democratic action. Their voice is loud and clear. I believe we must respect it. We must respect those that have made sacrifices for us. So basically saying, look, yes, we've heard you. We'll keep you in mind. And yeah,
All
let's
right.
see what happens.
Thank you very much. Let's keep it moving though. Speaking of what's going on with the election, so as lots of people are concerned about whether or not they will be able to vote, and we are looking at pending PVCs. And he says because they're quite concerned at the very low turnout of people.
Civic duties towards paying. Please have that flexibility, but not because people want to go collect their PVCs. That I do not agree with.
I agree, but can they put it on Saturdays? I mean, this is
Yeah.
can't they just put it on the weekend? I mean, it's
Sorry, what?
He also just point out the realities of Nigeria is that whether or not it is a choice, and yes, but if your employer is still working, whether you work with market to money or not, if she's get your PVC punished for that, to consider the reality that there are a number of people who do want to go out and do that. So the only way to ensure that they will be able to in a certain way at this time, considering the framework that already exists, is to say that, okay, these 2 days, no
Okay,
one, just
and
no.
some-
And it's the
and
last,
some
and it's the
employers
last 2
have-
days. It's the last.
Let me ask you this: who's going to compensate me for
Thank you.
the losses I made on the day that you shut it down?
I'm not disavowing that. I'm just pointing out the other side that we should also
For
consider as
Nigeria.
well.
But we
because
must
people-
look at
because
commerce.
I
We lose a
understand
lot
that,
of
Mr.
money.
Lady, I'm simply speaking for the people who have called in on this show on legal calls several times over the past few months, saying our employers won't let us go.
And
Thank
once
you.
again, that's why I encourage the spirit of
Latitude.
Yes.
That's the point I try to make. So I think what the governor should do is use his office to say, please, employers, can you allow those that want to go get their PVCs deal with PVCs? But when you shut down, that's a completely different narrative. That's all I'm saying. So
Agreed,
I think we're on the
agreed.
same page. I just think it's the
Agreed.
method with which it happens.
Yeah,
That's
please
the
doesn't
issue.
really work with capitalists. INEC just doesn't have the money to buy papers for 2019 elections, yet they're getting involved in the elephant project of electronic voting. Mahmoud should please go and see the courts and answer to them and get his priorities
Perfect.
right.
Absolutely
Wow.
perfect.
Then,
Well said.
please, can we also clarify certain things? Because somebody did tweet to point out issues surrounding electronic voting. If I can find it. Yes, Big Tay, Y Abiodun says, our electoral law actually still does not allow for electronic voting because what is being considered is the electronic transmission of results. And this in itself is recently allowed in the amended Electoral Act, which is yet to be signed, because recall that it was test run in Ekiti, and that's part of what's been going on between the executive and the legislature.
The meeting that INEC and NCC had was
Transmission, electronic transmission.
or pigeon.
Yeah, something like that.
Pigeon
Actually.
with a
because
battery?
because in 2015 or in all our elections, we shut down the roads, we shut down everything.
So that
There's
okay,
yes,
I get it.
thank you. Exactly. So we're upgrading. So it's antiquated.
But you're going from there to 1990.
Speaking of upgrading, though, we haven't figured out electronic voting, but we do have satellites in the sky. Let's talk about that. This is from the Vanguard newspaper. Tunde government yesterday reiterated their commitment to acquire additional backup satellites to reposition the Nigerian communication satellite Nigecomsat Limited for better service delivery. They say there's no going back on backup satellites, and this is from the Minister of Communications, Adebayo Shitu. It's very interesting because he does seem to lament that we're not, private and public companies are not patronizing Nigecomsat. A big question when I look through all of this is what do they do? But please go. Your thoughts on
I'll
this.
tell you what to do. And then he puts out a general statement. The barrister, the barrister overlooking our satellite communication entity. He says, Nigerians should patronize Nigerians. I mean, it's not the wider public, right? So it's not the wider public.
I was wondering if I could tap in directly to the satellite.
All the funny controversies aside, missing satellites, our contribution and that was doing important work, you know. And it clearly can't do this with one satellite, so we need it back. We do definitely do. Submarine communication cables, and the companies that have laid cables and brought cables onto our shores have a far better job in connecting us to the world than ICOMSAT has. If we relied on ICOMSAT, we would, probably still be using dial-up for internet connection.
But they're getting into it. So let's say they've been delayed in how they've done it.
With one satellite for the entire country. It just won't work. So, and so in relation to what they do, the two, there are multiple ways, two main ways in short to connect to the internet or connect you to the rest of the world. Either you put launch satellites into space, right, and you receive, they're interconnected, to the world via satellites, or you lay submarine cables. Submarine cables in this part of the world anyway have proven to be a lot more effective for us, right? And generally that's the route we've gone. Launching satellites and managing satellites can be a very expensive venture. The countries that lead in this lead with their own research and their own technology. It's only in the developing world that you find someone trying to take tech from someone else, which is my other issue with NICOMSAT. Are they a research institute or just a vendor management institute? And our vendor being China, right? Where we take something from them. We all remember the fiasco of, our space debris fiasco, where things, the official report is that the solar arrays, because that's how satellites get powered, they get power from their panels from the sun. But that solar array failed, and eventually the satellite had to be shut down and got lost. If we were managing our own, if that failure was due to something that we had tried, I would have preferred that, because we would have learned, and then we would improve. But what it is that we're paying someone to do stuff and we're not learning anything from it, and we haven't done a great job, right? However, what they are doing is important. Like everything else that we say, we need to pay a lot more focus and attention to it, and we should take it seriously.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Tunde. Well, here's something important if we are looking to learn as a people and perhaps grow. Lagos State Government have made a move to boost the reading culture. There's a website that you can go over to and register. It's www.lagosreads.com. It is open to the public, and essentially the governor, Akinwumi Ambode, approved a competition that was inaugurated in June, but will officially kick off, I believe, in October, that sort of promotes literary works and says, listen, every month there are a couple of books you should read. Nwaji, what are your thoughts on this initiative of Lagos?
I am all for it. Reading is fundamental, and I think it's absolutely essential that the culture of reading is highly encouraged and also fostered, especially with the youth. It is the future. It formulates the way that you think. It brings into consideration deductive reasoning, and it also builds upon how you just see the world, your ability to be imaginative, your ability to be creative, and all those things. However, and I'll let you jump in a second, this needs to be done because of the peculiarities of this environment in tandem with the parents, the minders, the guardians, everybody else. If you do not come from a household that has a reading culture, it is going to be very difficult for you to sustain that. So I think in as much as Lagos State Government is putting this initiative in place, I also believe that it should have some aspects of allowing their parents to also be part of that reading club. I think there was a case study somewhere in Eastern or Southern Africa, I'm not exactly sure which country, but I'll find out, where they were trying to cure literacy programs. And by doing that, they included the parents and the children as well, because the point was it doesn't make any sense trying to make sure that the kids now become literate if their parents remain illiterate. So the programs were for both parent and child. So I think with the reading culture as well, it's very, very laudable. I love the books that has been recommended. They're absolutely smash hits. But at the same time, pulling their parents, pulling their guardians, pulling their minders as well, so that they too can also get. It's never too late to get into the culture of reading.
All right.
So, that is highly encourageable, and I think that's the way to go about it.
Okay, sorry, I've got to quickly contribute here. Given that my sister owns Cassava Republic, this government, this is all very nice. They don't invest in the reading culture. They actually don't encourage literature, they don't encourage, they don't help publishing houses. And that's what we need to talk about. We can do all these fancy moves, but we have local publishing houses who are suffering every day because of lack of investment, lack of belief. Even the government, how many times? So you've got the King and Colony, but
we can't go into this in
I know,
more detail
unfortunately.
because we have two larger stories to still get to. But we will be putting up a list on our Facebook page of libraries that you can visit, which is quite important. So please go to Lagos State Libraries. And if there are any individuals out there who do want to invest in the reading culture, please do that and then go and register on the Lagos Reads site, because it is, as you said, a culture that all of us need to be involved in. And that's
Let's
how we can
invest
move
money
forward.
in it instead
That's
of
exactly
making
what I mean.
noise.
Invest the money in the book so you can put it in the library so the kids can go to the library. So let's move on to our next story. Speaking of investment, housing, the federal mortgage Bank of Nigeria basically have created a scheme where there's now zero equity contribution for housing loans of up to 5 million naira, just 10% contribution for housing loans, but from 5 to 15 million. I mean, it's a huge deal. Mr. Ireti, your thoughts there?
This is a big positive. Many people don't know this, but we are all, every single one of us in Nigeria, please, Lagos, listen to me. The day I found this out, it was a revelation. We are all entitled to the National Housing Fund. Did you know that? Every single one of us. We already contribute. As long as you're a taxpayer, you're an employee, we already contribute. So your money is there. Is that shocking?
Yes.
And nobody ever bothers. Yes, Kayode, you can have a house
Again,
tomorrow.
That's the
15
issue.
million.
Reading culture, people don't know.
Well,
don't
it's not
pay
so much
attention.
about, no, I don't think this is so much about the reading culture. I think this is very much about, there's so much information in this country. There isn't a library that you go to say, how many things does federal government gives me? So if somebody didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known.
That's part of what I mean.
So I'm
People
not
don't
going to
pick up
put people...
PVCs. People don't take advantage of
People
these
don't
things. Because
read.
it's there, we tell them there's adverts spent on it, there's promotion.
They
People
didn't
don't
promote this, though. They didn't promote this, Folu. This was not promoted, and this is part of the problem. Anyway, so this is good news. So what's changed is previously you had to put down, is it 5 or 10% in order for you to be able to access. So I think you put down 5% when you get 5 million and 20% when you put down when you get 15 million. Now it's gone much cheaper. You only have to put down 5 or, it's no longer 20%, it's either 5 or 10%, and it's still between 5 million and 15 million. And I promise you, the money is that simple. The fund, you can get it through, so you contribute to the NHF, right? Go and find out what it is, Google it, find out information about it. This really excites me. So FBN NHF, anyone that do single digit interest to accredited primary mortgage banks, okay? And so you can go through it, and you contribute to it, and you have access up to 15 million, and you can use that to build, to renovate, which have been contributing for 6 months or more. That's it.
You have access. We are eligible. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of the show. We're actually over time. And
within the women in politics.
And that's really sad. But you know what? We're going to have to come back to that at the beginning of next week, unfortunately. So Lagos, I do keep listening to our analysts up on, or chat them actually up on Twitter. You can find Mr. Ireti as CCOK Lagos up on Twitter. Nwaji is the corporate MC with K up on Twitter. And Tunde Okufi is Big Cooks. But do stick around at 8:15. We will be talking sports inside the locker room. Good morning.
Oh God, Fela is my friend. Fela Bankolemo. No, what I'm even saying is, Waji, if you know what publishing companies
it's
are
actually
called
very
in.
difficult.
Huh?
It's difficult.
It's so
glad you mentioned
ridiculous.
Kasara
I
Republic.
had to. Yes, now you know. I had
Sorry,
to.
only listen to
And
difficult
my
to watch.
sister is one of
It's
the.
difficult to publish.
In
What?
Nigeria, it's very
It's
difficult.
they killed.
Yeah, I think probably something happened at the inside downstairs.
Oh, inside downstairs, maybe the printer or something. Yeah. No, it's so painful. Like, look, my sister prints all these big publishers, and I know how many times she calls me in the middle of the night and she's in tears, as in literally in tears. And she started Cassava Republic with her funding. The government doesn't help. They don't get any money. It's ridiculous. And I'm going to call Fela
We
today.
don't even have information.
Yes, I'm going to call Fela Bankolemo today.
Very quick, I'm sorry, I really have to do. What happened?
What happened? Oh,
Oh, so it just went off.